Dylan on your left, Jim on your right. It's humans. It's Jeskai Control. And we're seeing two players playing for first place after day number 1 of competition.
This is one of those matchups where it's really hard for me to have a sense of who is actually favored because both of these decks have a habit of making the other one look extremely bad in the game that the deck wins.
Champion of the Parish is where Dylan Hand will start. It's a very, very tough matchup for humans. It's not one they want to play against. They definitely can win, but your preference is to fade this deck.
Yep. The games where humans wins, though, it often looks like, oh my god, like Thalias and Freebooters, and just all the spells got stripped away. And there was no hope of me of casting Supreme Verdict because the game was over too fast, or because it got taken away.
Cavern of Souls is going to name human. Champion of the Parish will be 2 triggers. Jim's probably just going to pass this. One of the things that I've noticed in this matchup, too, is don't get fancy. Just kill their stuff.
Right. Don't
take extra damage because then you could lose to something like a Keswick Malcontents. Don't get cute. Don't run into one of the obvious tricks which is out there, which is like a Mantis Rider being a 3/3 and getting your bolt blown out. See, Jim has got a pretty sound understanding of how things go here. He's going to Field of Ruin right now. This deck plays 1 basic.
Yes.
So he's able to say Field of Ruin, your Cavern right now, which will turn on my counter magic. It will short you a land, which means my path was not a drawback. I'll search up a land. Might just be a basic plane so he can turn on path, or a mountain if Jim has one for a bolt. He'll get an island here. But if you understand the matchup from Jeskai's side, and Jeskai has a pretty good draw, you're in a pretty good shape.
Yeah, I would definitely want to be on the Jeskai side of things for sure. And I'm interested to see, as humans goes along, I mean, we'll get to sideboards in a little bit, does 4X Sin Collector just start becoming an industry standard? Mm-hmm. Like, do you just need more stuff like that? Not to just beat Jeskai, but all of these decks that are trying to beat you with a lot of spot removal plus sweepers.
Mantis Rider and Lieutenant are going to come across. It'll be 5 damage. Davis is going to fall down to 15. The draw there was to Fairy. Not an ideal time for that one, I would say. Well, it looks like Davis's hand is a little bit clunky. Couple of lands to Fairy, Cryptic Command, and Sphinx's Revelation. Rev is not a card he is looking for right now at all.
Yeah, that is just a one-of in here. Not trying to do a whole lot of that, but not the right time.
Mm-hmm. Davis will play a Scalding Tarn and simply pass the turn back. One of the things, too, when you're playing against this deck, if you're Dylan Hand, and this is what kind of makes it difficult, is when you're playing against an opponent that has 4 mana up, there is a lot of things that they have available to them.
Yep.
Snapcaster Bolt, Helix Path, Counter Magic, all that stuff. Now, in this instance, Jim doesn't actually have much of anything going on.
I mean, as you mentioned, this play is the safest thing against Cryptic Command is just declare combat and see if Davis does anything. But if you attack on the way the board appears right now, and Davis has Snapcaster Mace, and he can Snapcaster Path away the Mantis Rider, block with the Thalias Lieutenant, and then you're out of gas that way too. So it's one of the subtle things about playing against Jeskai, but it definitely adds up to percentage points. It's just hard to play around everything, and any misstep, any slip up, and that can be the whole game.
Now, Dylan does have 4 mana on the battlefield at this stage, which is worth noting because Restoration Angel could play a role in things here. He only plays 1, but it could play a role in things. Jim is looking to play Cryptic Command, it looks like. I'm curious to see how he wants to go about using it. Because we may just see him say, bounce, Mantis Rider, draw a card. There's Restoration Angel. So Dylan could get himself into a lot of trouble here now.
Yeah, Supreme Verdict is a knockout here.
Uh-huh. 2 of which are in Jim's deck. Lieutenant's going to deal 3 points of damage.
But hand is well set up to beat individual pieces of spot removal. Mm-hmm. And now Snapcaster Mage, yes, it can get a removal spell back, but it can't trade with anything on the ground.
And Jim has started to find way too many lands at this stage of the game. Has not found something like a Supreme Verdict. Only has 1 white source of mana, though he is sandbagging at Plains right now. And Teferi right now is just much too slow.
I mean, this might be Davis's position might be just rev for 2, hope to survive, and if you have a Supreme Verdict, you can play on. But the Teferi doesn't get you very far. You get rid of 1 thing for a little while, your Teferi dies, and you're back in the same spot the next turn.
Now, Teferi's kind of interesting, though, because I kind of like playing it this turn, and I'll tell you why. You play Teferi, you probably just put Lieutenant back, because they're all 3-power creatures. Lieutenant has the ability to grow the most.
Yep.
It's bad later.
Totally, yep.
And if Teferi is being attacked, that's 1 less creature that's coming at you. So I can look at Teferi as a removal spell plus a little bit of a fog here.
So I guess my concern is if you put the lieutenant third from the top, let's say, okay, so hand on taps and draws. He splits the attacks and knocks you to 8. He has a Horizon Canopy, and then the Thalia's Lieutenant pumps both the creatures, and Davis goes from 11 next turn to 8, and then 8 to exactly 0, because the 3s become 4s.
Resto wouldn't.
Oh,
Mana
that's right.
Strider
Yeah. Oh,
wouldn't.
you're right. Yeah. So he would go to 1 in that scenario. Okay, sure.
Now, he's going to put Resto back on top of the deck, which means he's going to have to play against Restoration Angel next couple of turns. This is like kind of my concern, where Lieutenant has the ability to grow the largest here. He might just be dead.
Right. Lieutenant is the best on the table this turn, and the most likely the worst several turns down the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised that he opted to put Restoration Angel back as opposed to Thalia's Lieutenant. And that ends up costing a little bit there, as Dylan Hand is going to win game number 1 over Jim Davis. Humans is up a game over Jeskai Control. Humans can win. You just saw it. Jim didn't draw a ton of permission in that particular game. He drew some cards he didn't really want to draw. Teferi is good in certain stages, not great in that stage. Same thing can be said for Cryptic Command, but those are cards that he only plays 2 copies of each of.
You need some amount of early removal in Snapcaster or a Supreme Verdict to kind of bridge you to those late game cards. In the absence of that, Davis only drew the 1 path. Those Teferis and Supreme Verdicts are really hard to leverage in time, and played Teferi and died the next turn with the Sphinx's Revelation still in his hand.
Players will go to the drawing board here for game number 2. We'll take a look at their sideboards in just a bit, but first, a few messages from our sponsors. Game number 2 about to be underway here between Dylan Hand and Jim Davis. Humans versus Jeskai Control. We will start with Davis, as he will be on the play here. He's got 2 Ancestral Vision, 2 Dispel, 2 Surgical Extraction, and a ton of 1-0s. Elspeth Sun's Champion, Blessed Alliance. Celestial Purge, Negate. Vendilion Click is a static caster. Stony Silence. Wear Tear. Kaboom. Engineered Explosives.
Not the most inspiring sideboard for this matchup. I like the 1 copy of Engineered Explosives. And then past that, I think Blessed Alliance is probably too low impact for this kind of matchup. The Elspeth is powerful if you can get on the battlefield, but you're still vulnerable in the air. I don't know how much you would really want here past the 1 copy of Engineered Explosives. The static caster's okay.
I want the EE.
Yep.
I want the V-Click. I want the Blessed Alliance. I want the Purge. I want those 4 cards.
Sure, Purge, yeah, fair.
Purgical Manus Rider kills Freebooter. Might kill Sin Collector after sideboard, and apparently kills one of Dylan's favorite cards here in Direfleet Daredevil. 3 there, 3 Sin Collectors, 2 Rex Sages, 2 Gutshots, 2 Katakis, 2 Izzet Casters of his own, and a Dismember.
So the 6 for sure that I like, the 3 Dire Fleet Daredevils and the 3 Sin Collectors, seems like a really solid anti-spell package. And I could see the Dismember coming in too if hand's worried about the Colonnade over a long game, Vendilion click out of the board, whatever.
Some people sideboard in Baneslayer.
Baneslayer.
Yep.
Yeah. Although the Dire Fleet Daredevil does cover you a little bit against the big stuff because you can flash back their paths. So hand may just want to bring in those 6 for something like the 4 copies of Reflector Mage and 1 Thalia and 1 of something else.
I would board out Meddling Mage.
Sure, some mixture of the...
You can't name right with it. It's like impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of... So I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on 3 Thalias versus 4, as you see Jim taking mulligan here. But it is nice that you have Thalia when the game's short, and you have it more regularly when you have the 4th copy. And in the matchups where people are boarding in removal, you can easily cut the 1. It's something.
Board down 1.
It seems like the type of card where you could very easily want 4 for game 1 and then 3 for post board games.
Yeah, I agree. Looks like Jim will keep. I'm going to leave that card on top. Sacred Foundry tapped, pass the turn back. Go over to Dylan. Does he have a 1-drop? Cavern of Souls, Vial. Yes, he does. Serum Vision's the draw. That'll be a Scalding Tarn. Sacrifice the Tarn. We'll see what land he wants to go get. Could be Basic Island, could be Steam Vents, and of course could be Hollowed Fountain. A lot of options here for Jim.
Don't want to take points you don't have to take, but also critical for him to cast his spells on time.
Jim will play a Search for Escanta. Vial up to 1 here for Dylan. Second Vial. Not great in multiples, but if he's only got 1 land, it's like drawing a second land.
Exactly. I think quite a bit better than that. But yeah. You don't want second Vial, second land. Second Vial, 1 land, that's solid.
If you're Jim, you want that EE.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you want. You want to go kaboom. Serum Visions. Draw. And Scry not once, but twice. Scalding Tarn is a Static Caster. All right, leave them both on top. Plains pass the turn back. Activate a Vial. Noble Hierarch is here. See if that's going to live.
I think Davis has left a Static Caster on the top of the deck here. And I think the preference is get through this turn and hope the Static Caster can just take care of the Noble Hierarch without too much damage being done. Because it's not the easiest to cash in the Static Caster for value against humans. Comes up sometimes. When you're on the play, it's a little bit easier.
There are some moments where Static Caster is very good. Kills Noble Hierarch, can kill Thalia's Lieutenant with the trigger on the stack, kills Phantasmal Image, whatever it's copying. Can kill Champion of the Parish, I suppose.
But there's some moments where it's just like, whoa, is the game not about this at all?
Yeah, it is a blank magic card, some games.
So if you're going to keep it on top, you've got to make sure
it's doing its thing.
Right.
Here's Meddling Mage. We'll see what Meddling Mage is going to name. Jim is representing Lightning Helix very hard right now with his mana. So
yeah.
Helix is the name here by Dylan Hand. Now, Jim goes bolting here on the Meddling Mage. It's pretty safe. Vial through 2 is Lieutenant. +1/+1, sure. The thing that could happen is Vial on Image, and then Image can come in and name Helix again.
Yes.
And still brick the Meddling Mage. So That's why I'm not like the biggest fan of Mage in this matchup. Here's Thalia, that's a pretty nice play here by Dylan.
Well, this plays very nicely into Jim's Staticaster.
Yep.
This is as good as it's going to get.
And Jim did a nice setup there where if things aren't too bad, I can keep the land.
Yes.
But if things are bad, if I can mill the land, play Staticaster, kill your Thalia right now. So I like the play by Jim here a lot.
Yeah, he left himself in a spot where if the Staticaster was bad, he still had the opportunity to shuffle it away while keeping it if it was going to be good.
Yep. And again, this is a spot where I like when I play against humans, or if I'm playing Jeskai against humans, because I've played humans so much, just kill their stuff on your main phase.
Yeah.
Because if you let them untap with Vial, then like things get hairy with Lieutenant and all this other stuff where you don't need to let it happen. Here's another Noble Hierarch. So Staticaster's actually looking pretty good this game now. Though if Lieutenant shows up, then Staticaster's looking worse. Vials are going to go up to 3 and 2. This should be a pretty big turn here for Dylan Hand.
Not a bad spot for the Direfleet Daredevil. This would be a good window for it.
Yep. But Dylan right now, if you kind of look at it mathematically, he's got access to 3 mana. So in theory, he's got access to potentially 3 spells, maybe 4, depending on what his hand looks like. And that means he gets to do a lot of things this turn. I expect his hand to be mostly empty by the time this turn's over.
Oh, there's no way he's deploying another Noble Hierarch on the battlefield and face the Staticaster unless he's got a lot going on this turn.
Yep, there's Direfleet Daredevil that you mentioned. And he's going to use the Lightning Bolt in Jim's graveyard to take care of the Staticaster. So a great spot for that. Pass the turn back. Take a look. That top card is going to stay with Jim. It's a Flooded Strand. Draw Step. It looks like it might be Sin Collector, as there is a Vial activation on 3. There will be a Sin Collector. Hand with just 2 cards left. But he's starting to build himself a pretty nice battlefield.
And if he's got a Meddling Mage to the Vial, too, he can scope out the goods and then...
We're going to get a Lightning Helix here, it looks like. Yep. And again, I like Jim doing all of this stuff. Looks like he's gonna target Sin Collector, gain some life. I'm of the camp, especially when you have a search, just cast your stuff.
Oh yeah. You don't want to. You want to. The more that you're playing on their turn, the more that you're just exposed to their Vials and.
Because he's also got big draws.
Totally.
Here's Meddling Mage, probably gonna name Snapcaster Mage, but we'll see as Dylan does on tap. Hey, name Snapcaster Mage. 2, Lieutenant. Bump him up.
I mean, if Hand can fade a Supreme Verdict here.
Game's over, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Daredevil was nice this game. I was skeptical of it as a sideboard card, but it has performed really nicely here.
I think Dylan actually has a Sin Collector in his hand right now, too.
That's I don't want to say that's exactly the check mark, but I would be hard pressed to imagine Davis overcoming that. If he can Sin Collector in the draw step, still on the 1 land. I mean, these Vials.
How are they? They're pretty good. Pretty good Vials. I mean, I think this is Human's second worst matchup as far as popular decks are concerned. I do think that the Maru Pyromancer matchup is a total nightmare.
You can't realistically get it into the margins.
I think it's really hard.
It's just too bad.
Because some of the stuff you have to do against them is you have to sideboard like Staticaster against them, which is just like, what? What are we doing?
Sure.
But you need to kill Pyromancer and Lingering Souls.
Even though it's not like you want a creature against this deck that's all creature removal.
Yeah, and an 0-3 that doesn't do any damage. Like Jim going to trigger his search for his Kanta. Think about this one for a little bit. Remember, Jim's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 cards in the graveyard, so he could transform Search for his Kanta if he'd like. Snapcaster Mage in hand. He cannot cast Snapcaster Mage right now. Trigger on the stack. Yep. Yep. I will show you Sin Collector. That's really good Lightning Helix draw.
Yep.
I think you got to kill Med Mage. Yep. Get your 3 life back. Turn on your Snapcaster Mage again. Hope that Dylan draws a second land. And maybe a third land.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of breathing room here. And I think if I'm Jim also, I'm at 16. I'm taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's call it maybe 10 next turn. We'll call it 9. So let's say the Jim's virtual life total is 7. I think he's got enough life to work with at this stage where I might want to snap Serum Visions and try to peel and try to find a Wrath.
Sure.
As opposed to keep my Snapcaster Mage for like my Helix next turn. Because I just think that's asking a lot.
Right, you might be in the spot where you have to peel a sweeper the following turn anyway, even if you snap and Helix. So once you're there, you might as well.
And yeah, this is what I would want to do if I'm in Jim's spot. Scry 2, you're really looking for something in particular. You don't love backup copies of Serum Visions, though I don't know what he drew. He looks like he just drew a land. I think you probably just got to put these bolts at the bottom and hope to peel.
Well, the Serum Vision, the argument I think is the Serum Vision gives you the same redraw that your draw step does.
Okay.
And also makes hand think that you have Supreme Verdict on top.
Sure.
So but I guess the upside is you can scry, if you scry these 2 to the bottom, you can draw Serum Vision next turn naturally and draw the Supreme Verdict. But there's an argument for leave it on the top so he thinks you have the best card.
All right. Well,
I don't think it changes any of hand's lines is the problem. I think in different circumstances it's something to consider.
Gotcha. Seachrome Coast was the draw. So if you're rooting for Jim,
that's the draw.
You need Dylan to draw lands right now. That's where you're at. If you're rooting for Dylan, you want Dylan to draw like a Mana Strider or something else that's going to keep the gas going.
Horizon Canopy.
Yeah, sure. That's the land he draws, yeah. So Jim's going to trade with a Sync Collector. He'll take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's going to fall down to 9. Still got some life to work with.
If he's got 3 turns, that's a real shot.
Let's see what he's going to draw here. Didn't get a great look. And keep in mind now, because Jim has 6 mana, he can activate Escanta and find a removal spell and still keep playing.
Right.
He's at that stage of the game now where he can Escanta into Bolt, Escanta into Path, and get a lot of looks at it.
Engineer explosives, like yeah,
EE on 1's pretty good here.
Yeah, he's got draws for sure.
All right, let's see what Dylan draws this time. I think it may have been a Champion of the Parish. Did not get a great look. And it is. So that's going to trigger Lieutenant. Make that into a 3-power creature. If you're Jim, you got to assume that it's a land in hand, but also, what, are you going to play around something right now?
Right.
You know, just...
yeah, what could it be?
All right, Jim's going to activate his Kanta. Top couple of cards here. Elspeth Sun's Champion, Blessed Alliance, Bolt, and Field of Ruin. Okay.
I think he does not have the time for Elspeth.
I think you're right.
He probably just has to take the... I don't know if Bolt versus Blessed Alliance is a meaningful difference.
Well, I don't. If you Bless Alliance, he's just going to sack a Hierarch.
No, I just to gain 4.
Okay, sure.
I'm not interested in killing anything. He's still on Supreme Verdict and maybe EE or bust regardless.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I like taking this, and this is a little bit risky.
I mean, if you assume that hand's just on nothing.
Oh, he's got Path too. Okay.
Yeah, then you take Bolt. If you can play 2 spells here, then
okay,
do it.
Yep. You play your 2 spells. You end up taking 2. You fall down to 7. Yeah, he's working his way out of it.
Yeah, Davis's position is becoming very good here.
And if you have not watched a lot of Jeskai, or if you have not played with or against Search for Escanta, especially in Modern, this is a lot. This card in this deck is so hard to overcome if you're humans if they get 2 or 3 activations.
Yeah, because once they're at the spot where Jim is now with 6 mana, the odds are so high that he just goes, find a removal spell, cast it. Find a removal spell, cast it.
Mm-hmm. And this is where humans can't afford to draw Vial, in most instances 2, but Vial 3 or Land 3. Or if they're drawing creatures, it can't be Hierarch right now.
Yeah.
It can't really be Champion of the Parish right now. It's got to be Mantis Rider, more Dire Fleet, Daredevil, stuff like that. Here's another Hierarch. Not great as you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, hand is not in a position to play around Supreme Verdict. He's just got to play everything that he can onto the table and hope that Davis misses or he can only find a removal spell a turn and you can eke it out.
Here's just an attack with a Noble Hierarch.
I do not like this attack from hand side because, yes, you might squeeze out an extra point or two, but with the Exalted Trigger on the stack, Jim gets to go searching for a Bolt or a Helix. Or even
or a Path.
Or a Snapcaster Mage, just chump block.
Yep, there's that too.
He can't find Snapcaster off of it, but the point remains, like, there's a lot of ways for Davis to interact with exactly one attacker. I think that if you're in enhanced position, you just got to keep going wide and hope that it's just a removal spell you got to beat.
Just chip away.
Yeah.
Just keep chipping away. There's too many things that can go wrong in that spot. There's so few things that can go right.
Right.
Where Jim is like, oh man, I missed. I'll take X. I'd rather just hit him. He could have gotten him for 2 points. Now we're getting the main phase activations. There's a Bolt.
And I think Jim is now activating on his main phase because he has the draw to Engineered Explosives where he does everything in one turn. My preference is once hand shows that he's willing to make that kind of attack last turn, my preference is wait until he attacks to activate your Search for this concept, because if he's going to play into your Bolt and Helixes like that, I don't want to show him.
Yeah, I don't want to show him what the other side of it can be.
But I think it got flipped because Davis is now drawing to Engineered Explosives, and if he happens to find that off of the Azcanta, then we're going to game 3.
Yep. Supreme Verdict on the top of Jim's deck right now. Dylan will draw. Picked up a copy of Mantis Rider. Looks like we're going to be heading to Dylan's attack step here in just a moment, I imagine. Again, I believe the hand right now is Mantis Rider, Seachrome Coast.
Well, he can just go Vial on the Mantis Rider and go for it, right?
That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that'll be lethal. Champion will get a counter. That's a 3-power creature.
Davis left the card on top of your deck. You're not beating whatever he's left on top of the deck at this point.
That's true. Yeah, I agree.
If he scried both to the bottom, maybe you wait and hope for another. But I just don't. I don't believe it that you're beating his draw step from here.
All right, everybody in. It's also just very hard for me to believe that Jim has nothing. Well, if he has nothing, he's dead. So, you just have to assume that you have to hope that he has nothing. That's all you can do. The tough part here for Jim is I know he wants to save that path.
For the follow-up, yeah.
He wants to save that path for whatever the follow-up could be. So he's going to pass Champion of the Parish. He's going to take 4. He's going to fall down to 3, which means that he can lose to a top-deck Mantis Rider now.
Well, if he plays Supreme Verdict and his leftover card is
he should have Man Up. Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. You're right, partner. You're right. You are 100% right. As long as he leaves the mana up to be able to do that, you are 100% right.
Yeah, he has to be able to snap path.
No, okay, I was a little concerned. He can play around. What is this going to be? Freebooter. Okay. Yep, snap and click. That's a whiff. The one thing I just remembered is he does have to be a little cognizant of Direfleet Daredevil.
Yeah.
Recasting Bolt, but Snap can brick that too.
Right.
So that's important. Yeah, the game gets so easy if you can find EE.
Yeah, once hand just has to play on his own turn. It's not that hard.
V-click. And Ziggurat. It's getting easier. Probably trade. Guess you can just Kanta first before you decide.
Yeah, just see what's going on first.
Yep. Get your info up front before you make your block. Or you can snap right now, Helix, kill that, get your life total up to 6, and start to turn the corner now in the game.
Yeah, and now you're out of Direfleet Daredevil range, and it shouldn't be that hard to mop up from here.
Search for Azcanta is no joke, man.
No, that card's a ton.
Yep, he picked up Direfleet Daredevil now, did Dylan. A little late. Not sure how good it can be now. First one was good.
Yep.
And Jim going to activate his Kanta. Top 4 cards. Hey, Teferi. Jim will untap. He's going to quickly draw. Picked up another copy of Teferi. He's just trying to put the finishing touches on this one. Doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself, obviously, as he'll play a Teferi. But we have seen Jim like this before. His play will definitely speed up when he feels like he's in a good position as he plays a copy of Field of Ruin. He doesn't want to get too reckless. That's the thing.
Yeah, you would feel bad about getting killed by Direfleet, Daredevil, and then
a Mantis Rider.
Mantis Rider.
Uh-huh. He doesn't want to get too reckless here. And Dylan can play Helix to buy himself some time. He can play Bolts. Jim has a Helix in hand, so Jim's doing just fine now. Direfleet Daredevil is going to Helix the click. Jim will get the opportunity to, of course, untap 2 lands, so long as he does remember with Teferi. I'd be shocked if he forgot. There we go. And he may Field of Ruin here, too.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, you know, hand is a Restoration Angel in the deck, so no reason not to Stone Rain. He either can draw a Restoration Angel he can't cast, or he can get the Vial up to 4, and that's a win for you, too.
Yeah, you're happy with Vial being off of 3 at that point, then.
Yeah.
All right, back to Dylan. We're going to go. And that's going to do it. So Jim Davis going to tie things up here. Really, really, really good second game there between these two players. Again, one of these players is going to sit on top of the standings at 9-0 at the end of the match. We're going to watch the conclusion just a bit. Game number 3 about to be underway here between Dylan Hanna and Jim Davis. It's humans. It's Jeskai Control. And it's been a heck of a match thus far. Dylan Hanna is putting up one heck of a fight against what is generally a pretty difficult matchup for him. But he has come to the table with cards that do matter and do help swing the matchup. Direfleet Daredevil looking pretty good there in that second game. Sin Collector, of course, useful in this matchup. And you know what? Vial's normally not good in multiples. Pretty good that game.
Yeah, it was great. That was a really impressive comeback there by Davis.
That's Kanta, man.
Yeah, and I think
it's a really good card.
I think that a lot of that game might have come down to Hand's attack. The one turn where he went for the Exalted attack,
yeah,
I think was the floor on that attack was too low and he got caught.
Vial is where Dylan will start. Both players will keep their opening hands. Lightning Helix will draw there for Jim. Jim wants to figure out what land he wants to start with. It'll be a Flooded Strand. Kick it back over to Dylan. Counter there on the Vial. Dylan's, oh boy.
Well, assuming the Vial sticks, could still be good.
Yeah, but this one's tougher. No
Yeah.
second Vial or no second land. This one's tougher. Sacred Foundry.
And if something bad happens to your Vial, then
We're probably
in
done.
a lot of trouble.
Yeah. If you're Jim, you're actually pretty happy there. Davis will draw. Snapcaster Mage. Now, I'm not sure Jim has a ton of lands, but he's got a whole bunch of spells. As Dylan's going to activate Vial, it'll be a Champion of the Parish. See if Jim's going to make a move here or not. Looks like the answer is no. Vial up to 2. It's a boring attack for 1. Well, obviously not a ton of interest in pathing here.
No.
I have to imagine. I think Jim can say, okay, I'll take 1. It's just 1, right? All right, it's just 1. And Davis will draw. Teferi. Ugh. Not his favorite right now. Good a little bit later. There's a Scalding Tarn. We'll get a Vial activation. Jim has to respond to that. There's Thalia. You can kill it now if you'd like. Doesn't appear to care too much. Champion of the Paris will get a counter. And we're going to head back over to Davis. There's land number 2 for Dylan Hand. It's a Rising Canopy. Now we're going to start seeing maybe 2 things per turn here for Dylan Hand.
Yep.
That's a Thalia's Lieutenant. Might start to get a little ugly now. There'll be triggers. Bigger. Bigger. Champion of the Parish is now 4-4. Thalia's 3-2.
And Jim has to respect a number of 2s that could be played out that Vial right now because Hand could have simply Vialed the Lieutenant through.
Jim will go to basic Mountain. All right, I'm curious now. Is it Image? Yeah, okay, that'll work too. Love this play.
And he gets to fizzle the Helix for his trouble too. That's great.
I love this play.
Great.
Yep. This is why Jim had the opportunity to kill Thalia a little bit earlier, and he didn't take it.
Anytime that you are playing a removal spell into an untapped Vial,
not interested.
The success rate's not great from what I've watched.
Not interested.
Sometimes there's moments you can do it. Sometimes they're so low on resources it's whatever. But in spots like this where they've been missing land drops and their hand's all spells, it just seems to go bad a lot.
Mm-hmm. And now Jim is starting to get a little gummed up. It's not like his hand's bad. His hand's plenty fine. Up to 3.
I mean, in theory, he's still, he could path something this turn and then Supreme Verdict the next turn.
Yeah. Let's see what this is. Another Lieutenant. Going to play it through the Cavern so it can't be countered. Looking to grow all these creatures. Thalia's Lieutenant's trigger on the stack of giving everything +1/+1. Play a Mana Strider. That, of course, will put the +1/+1 counter on Mana Strider. You also get more triggers here. Champion of the Parish will get a trigger there from Mana Strider in the battlefield. Same with the other Lieutenants as well.
And now the question is, does Davis even have the luxury of pathing the Thalia at this point? Does he have to do it to the champion to survive combat? And at that point, if he doesn't have land number 5, which I don't believe he does right now.
He does not right now.
Then he does not have the Supreme Verdict guaranteed next turn. And the rest of his hand's not catching up. I mean, he's in trouble. Yeah, he's in trouble. I mean, if he still can draw to land number 5, he's okay, depending on what the last card is in Hand's hand. But
so Dylan's going to disperse these counters where they need to go. And let's keep in mind, Jim does have a good play here. If he can go Path to Thalia, play Snapcaster Mage, chump block your biggest creature, take my damage, Wrath you.
Yep.
That assumes he makes it to the next turn, which he'll take 8, fall to 4.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
4 and 3 is a big difference.
Yep. But this is not getting max value out of Snapcaster Mage, and because he didn't get to gain that life off the Helix, this all adds up against humans. Yep. It all adds up for a deck that has no reach, especially because Dylan's version is not playing Keswick Malcontents. They're not that tricky, but they do have some tricks up their sleeve, especially if you're not familiar with, and it felt like Jim wasn't, the Thalia replacing Thalia to brick a Helix play. Yep. So, yep, got to path the Thalia to turn on your hand. And you got to use Snapcaster Mage to block the champion. So there's that. You take 8, you fall to 4. You verdict, you hope it's not too bad.
But 4 and 3, again, that's a big difference when you're playing against Manus Rider and Direfleet Daredevil with Helix in your graveyard.
Absolutely.
The problem is that I don't know if Jim's leftovers are even particularly good.
Island the draw, not so bad. Verdict, leave a bolt. All right, Dylan rubs his hands together, which means he must need to peel. He's got some good draws in this situation. He's got a redraw there with Horizon Canopy, too. Vial going to stay on 3. Draw a card. Didn't get a great look. Let's crack the Canopy. Let's draw a card. Manus Rider he found. He's got multiple Manus Riders. What's this? Freebooter. Scope it out. Purge to Fairy. Oof, that's tough. Snapcaster Mage is what's making this tough.
Yep.
Yep. Manus Rider puts you to 1.
That's why he's got to take the Purge here.
Uh-huh.
Among other reasons, I suppose.
Jim needs to, if I'm Jim, I got to find a land here.
I think a hand's last card here is a Manus Rider also.
It is. Snap there for Jim.
No help.
Nope. Yeah, if he found a land this turn that enters the battlefield untapped, he could go snap Helix your. Because I don't think he has a 1-mana removal spell in his graveyard. How much white mana does he have? 2. Snap Path Purge. Nope.
Yeah.
Because he needs a life.
Yeah, he's a mana short.
Mm-hmm. If he had a mana, he could go snap Helix your Freebooter.
And then Purge
your Manus Rider. Still be at 1.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that, though. He does not have that. Dylan Hand's going to steal this one, folks. And he played real well to do it.
Yeah.
He really did.
That Helix play. I mean, that's
the entire game.
That was so much life. So much damage, yeah.
Dylan Hand going to win this match here over Jim Davis. 2 games to 1. Humans will take care of Jeskai Control. And for Dylan